Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Nnamdi Kanu. I am here to address the issues of NNPC unaccounted 210 trillion naira. According to the report of the auditor's report that was forwarded to the Attorney General of the Federation, and the attempt by the National Assembly to the Senate to muzzle and embarrass Senator Adams Oshiomhole for calling the NNPC a house of thieves, and they ask him to withdraw the word. They ask him, oh, why will he use such a word? NNPC is populated by honest and decent men, without prejudice to whatever reputation anybody may think about or even try to. Let me explain to us. I stand with Adams Oshiomhole 100%, and I will explain why. We think we try to cover up iniquities in this land, high level. Adams Oshiomhole was very clear that the Senate members were being accused of populating NNPC and other top parastatals with their children. Therefore, they are kind of purchased and they cannot rightly perform their oversight function of acting as providing oversight function over NNPC and other. And it's true and it's factual. So, why do I start with Adams Oshiomhole? And I will take us through history with facts and figures. Citing Premium Times report of 9th October 2025, it's estimated that over $18 billion to $25 billion were wasted in turnaround maintenance programs on those refineries by the NNPC leadership over a period of over 19 years. Aliko Dangote spent $20 billion to build the biggest single train refinery in the whole of the world, 650,000 barrels a day. Today, very soon, he will list it on the floor of the exchange. If that $25 billion wasted by the NNPC on the refineries, and it never worked, nobody was arrested, nobody was prosecuted, what do you call such a place? It's a house of thieves. Mele Kyari told us gleefully, between 2018 till when he left office in 2023, Mele Kyari told us that on a monthly basis, over $1.9 billion of our crude oil resources were stolen. We are lost to thievery and inefficiencies. $1.9 billion every month. In a year, $22 billion multiplied by the 5 years that he was there. 5 years, 9 months that he was there as the GMD. Nobody was prosecuted. Nobody was arrested. They could not manage and protect the common assets of Nigerians. And yet, people are angry that Adams Oshiomhole called that place a house of thieves. In 2010, October to be precise, go to the CBN website and check this record. Fact check me. Nigeria was doing 2.8 million barrels of crude and condensate everyday production. Today we barely produce 1.7 million barrels a day. Our crude oil is stolen. Anyhow, one of the general reports, I think it was 2019, showed clearly that over 70 million barrels of crude could not be accounted for. Nobody was arrested, nobody was prosecuted. What do you call that place? You are angry Adams Oshiomhole called the place house of thieves. Under the Ziani Madueke, the Senate probed, the House of Rep probed subsidy scams, and it was discovered that the 45 million liters of PMS import reports daily during that period was overinflated by almost about 30-40%. Under Kachukwu Ibe, our consumption came down to almost at 2 million liters a day. A DPR report of February 2020 clearly showed that our average daily consumption hovered around 38.5 million liters a day. But under Mike Antibaro and the Mele Kyari, we were being told that Nigeria was importing and consuming 52 million, 60 million, 75 million, 65 million liters of PMS a day, depending on the volume of spirit of demon of clay minutes that captured the many times they are making those reports. When they were harassed, they said, oh, those things were being smuggled. The then customs DG was so angry. Ali was so angry that he said it's not possible. If I even blasted them. But of course, if you look at the true records, from Togo to Cameroon to Benin Republic to Niger to Chad, are contiguous nations that surround Nigeria. their total daily consumption wasn't up to 9.8 million liters a day. So if you add our real consumption of 38 million liters a day to their 9.8, you will see clear that all those bogus figures they were abandoned wasn't real. It was a means of inflating and stealing our monies. And yet, people are angry at Adams. Somebody call them a house of thieves. You see, it's such a very, in a sane environment, where things are done properly, a forensic investigation conducted between, in fact, 2015-2023 was the years of Laseni and Kankawom under Buhari, Baikanti, and Melekiari. At least you can see clearly. The current guy there is actually trying to see if he can bring in sanity. But I can tell us of a truth: there will be no sanity at the NNPC. There are good people in NNPC. Okay, we know. The other day, Pengasan and the other people, other senior staff of petroleum and oil workers, they are those who manages those refineries. How come they've not gone on strike to demand that those who stole or who misappropriated $18 to $25 billion be prosecuted? So if the majority of the good guys cannot hold accountable the majority of the criminal gangs, so what do you think we should call every one of them? Is a house of thieves. So the truth is, we know the right things to do. Nigerians are not more dishonest than the Brazilians. But the Brazilians did the right thing. When they discovered so much corruption in the oil and gas sector, what did they do? They decided to inject transparency and accountability by bringing in the private sector efficiency. Brazilian government divested 72% of the public shareholdings in Petrobras, allowed it to go to private sector, deep-pocketed technical service investors, both local and foreign, and listed it on the floor of the Brazilian Stock Exchange, and only retained 28% shareholding. Today, Petrobras, managing 15.5 billion barrels of crude oil reserve of Brazil, extracts 3.9 million barrels of crude every day. On an annual basis, they do over $130 billion revenue. They generate over $36 billion profit annually and pay over $48 billion royalties to the Brazilian government. They manage 11 refineries plus 8 other refineries owned by private sector investors that refine combined capacity of 2.4 million barrels a day. And they are very efficient. And similar thing, if the Nigerian government are sincere and they want to stop NNPC and petroleum from being a cesspit of corruption, they know what to do. All they need to do is to divest the federal government Nigerian shareholding in NNPC. Sell down 70%, 30% to core technical investors, and 40% to Nigerians, and list it on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, and then list it on the floor of the London Stock Exchange. If they do this, within the next year, we'll start doing almost 3 million barrels of crude production every day, and we will see revival in that place. They will not do it. It is always this. It is a center that the golden corrupt goose that lays the corrupt egg. And most of them will never do anything right. So, I'm not a fan of Adams Oshimole, but on this one, the guy is 100% correct. They are trying to shush him up. But most of them are all beneficiaries of the last Senate that happened under the Buhari Kankawom. And it's still continuing. Because if they want to change, they will know what to do to swiftly change the tide. Nigerian liquefied natural gas is working efficiently because it's owned 51% by private sector investors and 49% by Nigeria through the NNPC. It's shielded from all this nonsense that is happening in the Senate. IPOB want to kill and shut down anybody who talks about corruption. Shame on you all.